The Last of Us TV show is definitely my most anticipated show of next year. The games hold a very special place in my heart, and everything that I've seen and heard so far give me the highest of hopes for this adaptation. And while we don't have a trailer or really anything other than one official photo, we do have where this story eventually leads to. So I can't help but wonder what direction the show will take should there be a season 2. Before I get into the speculation, if you're new around here, I'm the Thrifty Typewriter, and I make all kinds of videos on all things sci-fi, fantasy, and mystery, so if those are things that you enjoy, consider checking out the channel and hitting that subscribe button if you see some things that you enjoy. Look out for new videos every week, and join the Discord for some fun conversations. Now, enough of this, let's get on with the video. The Last of Us Part 1 will be a fairly straightforward adaptation, and it is an adaptation, so there are definitely things that will be different between the game and the show, and I have absolutely no problem with that. They are spending an absolute fortune on making the show, and recently Pedro Pascal even compared it to making of The Mandalorian because of the amount of love that is going into the show. To me, that's a very good sign. I want the show to reward fans of the games, but also show us some new things. I'm sure not all of these things will be received well. I mean, look at the Halo series and how that's being perceived because it's not exactly like the games. But to me, The Last of Us is different. Story is already very cinematic, and whatever changes are needed to be made for an adaptation, I trust they will be necessary. But like I mentioned before, this is an adaptation of a video game series, so we already know where the story is headed long before we've even seen the trailer for the first season. The Last of Us Part 2 is polarizing, to say the least. I personally didn't play the game when it first came out because the internet swayed my decision on it, but when I did play it, I absolutely loved it. I don't see how anyone could actually hate this game, but if somebody who actually hates the game wants to tell me why in the comments, I will gladly have a very civil debate with you. But even with it being polarizing, if they make a season 2, that's almost 100% what they're going to adapt unless they want to come up with a completely new story, which is possible, but not likely. First off, there's a few practical hurdles that they'll have to jump. There's a 4+ year time difference between the first game and the second, with a bunch of flashbacks riddled throughout. The actress playing Ellie, Bella Ramsey, is 18 years old, so she's passing as a 13 or 14-year-old in the first season, but if she's supposed to be playing 19-year-old Ellie, she's gonna have to age up into her early or mid-20s, but that also leaves the problem of flashbacks when she's supposed to be growing up. Are they going to film those scenes during the first season so that way they can use them later? What about the flashbacks that take place in the years between the first and second game? Are they going to film those scenes in like a year or two? This would mean that if next year in 2023 we get the first season, we would realistically have to wait at least 3 more years for them to even begin filming season 2. Which isn't unheard of for a TV show, but this wait can absolutely kill the hype for a show. Look at what everyone is saying about Stranger Things Season 4. The wait has been too long, and now not everyone is excited as they would have been like a year ago. However, that's not really the production's fault, that's more of the world's fault. But speaking of Stranger Things, look at how different these kids look from when the show premiered in 2016 to Season 4 in 2022. This is kind of what the difference should be between Ellie in The Last of Us Part 1 to The Last of Us Part 2. This would be a 5 or 6 year difference between seasons if they were to wait that long. While not unheard of, that doesn't seem very efficient or realistic. Another more efficient but less desirable approach would be to recast Ellie. Recasting for characters to be older is nothing new, it happens all the time, but with a story like The Last of Us and how central Ellie is to the story, it might be more jarring than other movies or shows that recast their actors. Maybe not, maybe they'll find someone and it won't feel out of place, but I think that's a very dangerous route to go. Then there's the issue of pacing. Pacing for television and games are very different. If I have one issue with The Last of Us Part 2, it's the pacing. Spending half the game as Ellie just to basically restart as Abby really broke the flow of the story and actually made it harder for me to get into Abby's story. If they were to make a second season, how would they change this, or would they change it at all? For a show, spending 3 days with Ellie and then 3 days with Abby might actually work out well. Like I said, the pacing in games and shows are very different. You go from some of the biggest action set pieces in the game to slow everyday life with Abby, and that change feels very jarring and not in a good way. With a show, this change of pace might actually feel good for the audience. Seeing all these dark episodes in a row with Ellie going on a rampage and then changing that to Abby's perspective might be a bit more enjoyable and relaxing to get a break from all that. However, on the flip side of things, this could get a TV audience to hate Abby even more than they already will. Just like the game's audience, they could not care about Abby and just tune out of the show altogether. With the game, it doesn't matter if you don't like playing as Abby because you already paid your $60. They have their money. With a show, if someone doesn't want to see Abby, they simply don't have to watch the next episode, and that's where I think they will change the formatting of the second season. If they cut between Abby and Ellie in the show, just like the game did in the prologue, I think it would keep viewers more engaged and even give them more of a reason to like Abby. If we see Abby and her friends live their lives and then see Ellie kill these characters that we just met as Abby, that might pack more of a punch than the way the game was handled. Of course, this is all if they're going to do a second season. There's nothing confirmed at all, and with the difficulties of adapting part 2, they might just leave the story alone and tell people to go play the game if they want to see what happens next. I think we'll have a very clear idea if there will be a second season when the last episode of season 1 premieres. If we're introduced to Dr. Anderson or Abby in any capacity, then you can bet that there will be a second season. But if Dr. Anderson isn't focused on at all when Joel kills him, then perhaps this show could just be a single season. What are your thoughts on The Last of Us TV show? Are you excited or worried or both? I know this is probably a conversation that could have been saved for later, like after the first season ended, but it's just something that's been on my mind a lot lately, so I figured, you know what, I'm gonna make a video on it. If you want me to cover more videos about The Last of Us, let me know that down in the comments below, and if you hated part 2, I genuinely will have a civil debate with you if somebody wants to give me their thoughts on that. If you enjoyed the video, remember to leave a like, and if you subscribe, then I'll see you in the next one.
Yeah.